Is this major international superstar set to make their WWE debut? But first, Samoa Joe has shared his thoughts on the AEW All In backstage incident. At the AEW All In London event back in late August, headlines would be made when it was revealed that CM Punk and Jack Perry were involved in a real-life backstage altercation prior to the Second City Saints opening match with Samoa Joe. Since then, there's been contrasting accounts of what exactly went down in that moment. With that said, current ROH television champion Samoa Joe, who is said to have played a role in calming the tensions and getting things back on track, would speak with the New York Post this week ahead of tonight's AEW Dynamite Grand Slam, where he was asked about the accuracy of reports that have emerged, and Joe would respond, "For the most part, I haven't read what's been portrayed. There's been so much said. I'm not the one to go out there and try to debunk everything. I know we had the initial incident. Everybody rallied, everybody got together, got their heads together and lined up and got ready to do the show, and we went out there and we did the show. That really was the focus at that point in time. We got a massive show to do, and we got fans out there rabid to see that happen. So it's important that we step up and do it, and it's important that we did, and I was proud to be part of that." Following claims that AEW President Tony Khan was in fear for his life that night, Joe would be asked if the incident was intense as it's being made out to be, something he feels is dependent on who you ask, and he would note, "That's up to who perceived it. I'm used to that environment. Those things don't seem very intense to me, but it could be something crazy intense to someone else. I wasn't really affected by that moment. I was more focused on getting the show back on track and getting us going because it was bell time." The Samoan submission machine would then reveal what it meant for he and Punk to potentially complete their story inside Wembley Stadium before being asked about his personal relationship with the former AEW champion, and he would say, "A tremendous amount. I've always enjoyed the many minutes I've spent in the ring with Punk, and to be able to revisit that at this point in our careers was a big thing for us both personally. It was good to get back in there and scrap around with him a bit and entertain a lot of people in the process. I'd imagine there are a lot of things that are misunderstood or portrayed about him. Now, what those things are, it's who's representing in what way. I can't really give you a blanket statement as far as what those things are. For the most part, our relationship has been very, especially for these years, has been very non-wrestling related. It's just been extraneous stuff outside of the world of wrestling and talking about life stuff." Next up, we have a major update on a potential WWE return. Former WWE World Champion Randy Orton hasn't been seen on WWE television since May 2022, where he and Matt Riddle dropped the Raw Tag Team titles to the Usos in a unification match. In the time since, he's undergone back fusion surgery that led to doctors recommending he never wrestle again, this according to his father, Bob Orton. With that said, we now have an update on the Viper's potential in-ring return, as according to a new report from Fightful Select, Orton has been spotted at the WWE Performance Center and has been there for quite some time. Despite the concerns regarding his future, Orton is said to be adamant to those close to him that he will return to the ring and has been working out in the gym to the point where he is now huge physically. Interestingly, the report also reveals some internal rules regarding mandatory Performance Center appearances prior to any potential returns, and Fightful noted, "When a talent shows up or is returning, WWE has a very strict rule that they have to work out in some capacity." During a recent interview with Cody Rhodes, he'd noted to Fightful that the rule is very real, and even The Undertaker couldn't avoid doing it when slated for it. With that in mind, Randy's recent PC appearances could well be linked to a wrestling return, as well as this mandatory rule, with the man himself sure a return will happen eventually. With that said, we have no time frame on when this could take place. Next up, we have the latest on AEW's upcoming move to a streaming platform. We would recently cover comments made by Andrew Zarian of the Mat Men podcast to reveal that All Elite Wrestling will soon transition into a 12 pay-per-view per year schedule, this whilst moving to Warner Discovery's Max streaming service, noting that this isn't a prediction. In light of this revelation, Warner have announced that Max will now be introducing a brand new subscription tier that will include access to live sports, seemingly revealing the future home of AEW events, and the announcement reads, The Warner Bros. Discovery-owned streaming platform will launch a new premium sports tier October 5, just in time for the Major League Baseball playoffs, which starts 2 days later. The new tier will be called the Bleacher Report Sports Add-on, or BR Sports, taking the name of WBD's digital sports news, opinion, and highlights brand. It will cost $10 per month on top of the subscription for Max. However, it will be available for free during a promotional period that runs through the end of February, covering the MLB playoffs and much of the NBA and NHL seasons. Whilst AEW will not be part of the Bleacher Report Sports add-on as of this recording, it's not too difficult to come to the conclusion that this will be the home of AEW's pay-per-view in the future, were Andrew Zarian's report to be accurate. It's certainly something worth keeping an eye on as the broadcast negotiations continue between AEW and Warner. And next, 2 upcoming Bray Wyatt wrestling figures have been put on hold. On August 24, it was revealed that Wyndham Rotunda, better known as Bray Wyatt in WWE, had sadly passed away at the age of 36 after suffering from a heart attack inside his Florida home. Prior to Wyatt's passing, 2 upcoming action figures had been announced by WWE toy partner Mattel, with an Ultimate Deletion Bray coming to the Elite Greatest Hits line, whilst an Ultimate Edition version of his Royal Rumble 2023 look was also in the works. With that said, Ringside Collectibles have this week announced that the figures have been placed on hold, with them posting the following announcement to social media. We just received the following Bray Wyatt WWE figure update from Mattel. We've had to adjust 2 waves of upcoming WWE figures due to the unfortunate passing of WWE superstar Bray Wyatt. We'll be offering the performer's family some space at this time, but in partnership with WWE, we look forward to celebrating this amazing superstar and his legacy in future lines to come. The statement would confirm that Wyatt will be removed from both the Elite Collection Greatest Hits Free and Ultimate Edition Wave 20 lines, adding that refunds will be issued to all affected customers. Whilst the news may come as somewhat of a disappointment to fans that had pre-ordered the figures, patience will no doubt pay off, with plans seemingly in place to honour the late WWE champion in the months or years ahead. And next, Tony Khan has discussed his recent speech over firing CM Punk. On September 2nd, All Elite Wrestling would announce the contract termination of Phil Brooks, aka CM Punk, with cause. This following an alleged series of backstage incidents at the AEW All in London pay-per-view. The news would be broken by AEW's official X account, this before AEW President Tony Khan later addressed the live audience ahead of the Chicago taping of Collision in order to explain why they fired their hometown hero ahead of a big weekend in the city. Speaking with Insider this week, Khan would discuss his decision to face the potential backlash head-on, a decision that seemingly paid off, with a large portion of the crowd at the very least being understanding of his actions that he had to take. When explaining why he chose to address the crowd from the stage rather than the ring, he would note, "You can't see everybody's face from the center of the ring. You have to choose one side of the crowd to face when you're in the ring. And I wanted to be able to see everybody. I felt like I'm not a wrestler and I don't need to be in the ring, and for this moment, I thought I would just sit down and talk to everybody. That's why I brought a chair. And when I was done and walked backstage, the first person I saw was Ricky Steamboat, and he said, 'That was great. You turned the crowd. You turned them around. That's so hard to do, and you did it.' I felt I at least owed that much to the wrestlers and the fans to go out there and talk to everybody." Next up is this major international superstar set to make their WWE debut. WWE will soon return to Saudi Arabia for the second time this year when they host Crown Jewel live from Riyadh on November 4. Throughout the past 12 months or so, the nation of Saudi has made headlines in another sport, football, or soccer depending on where you're based, with the government-backed Public Investment Fund buying out 4 of the Saudi Pro League's biggest clubs before bringing in many of the biggest names the sport has to offer, with the use of hugely inflated transfer fees and wages. One of the acquisitions made by the PIF is arguably the most well-known footballer on the planet, Cristiano Ronaldo, who has long been in the debate of the greatest of his generation alongside counterpart Lionel Messi. Now plying his trade for Al Nassr, Ronaldo finds himself as the marquee name of the Saudi Pro League, with there now reportedly being talks for CR7 to grace the wrestling ring with his presence at Crown Jewel. According to Spanish outlet AS, an appearance is being worked on, and they would write, World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE, is working to secure an appearance by soccer giant Cristiano Ronaldo at the upcoming WWE show Crown Jewel. The company wants the 5-time Ballon d'Or winner to be a superstar guest at the wrestling event, which is slated to take place in Saudi Arabia in November. In April this year, WWE was bought by UFC owners Endeavor, who now appear keen to boost Crown Jewel's profile and potential revenue by having Ronaldo at the event, in exchange, of course, for a large appearance fee. It's very unlikely that Ronaldo would work a match at the show, given the high risk of a mid-season injury. However, a speaking appearance at Crown Jewel would no doubt generate headlines for WWE in both Saudi Arabia and all over the world. And before you go, make sure you check out 10 facts that MJF doesn't want you to know.